Kyle Monangai talks about his desire to play football and to be great for the Chicago Bears. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, Caleb ranks high in ESPN's quarterback rankings. Surprisingly enough, we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. And we're going to look at the Bears being called to prioritizing re-signing of Jaquan Brisker. We're talking about all these things plus more on today's Chicago Bears Central.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Derek Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. And one of the standouts in the Bears' first preseason game has been Kyle Monangai, drafted in the 7th round by the Chicago Bears. After the Bears failed to trade up for like a Travion Henderson, they ended up drafting Kyle Monangai in the 7th round there. And he's been really a revelation throughout training camp. We talked about it last week where Ben Johnson came out and said that he does trust Kyle Monangai, and we talked about what that meant for him and his potential spot in the rotation in that running back room for the Chicago Bears. And while he was one of the standouts in the game, there's still been some doubters around that. I saw somebody leave a comment saying Kyle Monangai's too slow, which is like, yeah, he's not the fastest running back in the world. He ran, a 4.5 40, I believe. But it's not just about speed when it comes to running backs. Like, the initial burst is really important there as well. But when it comes down to it, Kyle Monangai talked about his game for the Bears and a little bit of his desire, and he said this. It felt good to just play football again, be out there in front of fans. The way I can play, the way I run in the ball between the tackles outside, I do everything a running back has to do. Do things without the ball in my hands, block, catch the ball out of the backfield. I had a chance to do some of those things, but I also didn't get a chance to do some of those things either. Just at a glance, I have to clean up some stuff, get better. I'm going to watch film, learn from it, and get better next week. All right. So as a former running back myself, when you have a running back that does a little bit of everything, that's a hugely important part of the football team. Now, one thing that I think a lot of fans do in sports, it's not just Bears fans, it's not just football, it's all the sports, is that sometimes we can get caught up in looking at a player as who we think they can be before they necessarily get there. And there have been a lot of Bears fans that have talked about Kyle Monangai in the sense of like, oh, he can be running back one, he could be this, he could be that. And I'm not willing to do that quite yet. I'm just not. Right now, I know I see things that Kyle Monangai, of course, can tighten up. But the things that make me really happy to have him here is that him saying, like, yeah, I got to do some of the things. I didn't get to do some of them, but I need to tighten up in some areas as well. Let me go watch this film. Let me figure out how to tighten up my game. Let me be better next week for my team. And then we're going to go out here and try to win some football games. And that's the thing that I love. Players with drive. I always say this, is that you can have potential, but potential isn't always realized. One of the things that's hardest to judge, especially by, people, I don't get paid to do this, but, it should be less hard to judge by the people who have to do this day in and day out. But judging a player and how well that they can maximize on the potential that they have, that's where a lot of people have gone wrong at, because there are some players that have tons of potential. There are some players that have tons of raw talent. But one of the things that I always say is that raw talent is not enough. That can get you by in high school. That can get you by in college. But in the NFL, it's not. Raw talent usually doesn't get you by or get you to the heights of where you can go. You have to also decide on how players can tap into that potential and what's the chances of them maximizing on that potential. And you want to invest in guys that even if they look like they can maximize on the potential, it doesn't always mean that they will. But you want to prioritize guys that at least have the right mindset, the right mentality, and then you can trust on how much they're going to maximize on that potential there. And Kyle Monangai is one of those guys. He is a guy that he takes pride in what he did. And, a guy like Kyle could very well say, oh, well, I led the Big East in rushing. I did this. I did that at Rutgers. But all that doesn't matter in the NFL. Yeah, that's what helps get you to the NFL. Make no mistake about it. But the doubt is still that you were a 7th round pick. Despite what you did in the rushing game at Rutgers, you were still a 7th round pick, the last round of the NFL draft. And he has that drive. And we even seen that basically from that first rookie mini camp as well, where him and Eric Bieniemy were talking back and forth, right? And so, it's the environment that the Bears have created with the coaching staff that we have. I just mentioned Eric Bieniemy, is that him and his desire to push these running backs. I think a guy like Kyle Monangai is definitely going to respond to that. And so he's saying all the right things. We got to see if he continues to do the right things on the football field, because there are always going to be areas to go. No matter how good a game can be, there are always areas for growth. There's not a such thing as perfection. So you can strive for perfection, but you're always going to probably fall short of that. And so, hearing that this a common guy saying, I'm going to go back, I'm going to watch this tape, I'm going to solve some things that I did, and hopefully I get an opportunity to do more of the things that I can do. But he does offer, common guy offers the best combination of everything that he has in the Bears. Doesn't mean that he's necessarily the best, going to be the best, but the combination of the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, the pass blocking ability, the ability to run between the tackles, the outside, the patience. When you hear people talk about like Monangai's speed and the fact that he doesn't have the speed that you look at a 40-yard dash time, but listen, that 40-yard dash time is very different from when the pads are on and you need to place the timing of when to use your burst of speed coming through that offensive line. That is something that Kyle Monangai has, and I hope that he continues to develop here with the Chicago Bears, but things are looking good for him. And we just got to see how this is going to continue for this team and where we are. And hopefully this is a player that we look back on in a year, or look back on during the season or whatever it is, and we're like, can you believe we got him in the 7th round? I don't think that this is going to stop the Bears from looking for a running back in next year's draft. As things stand right now, I still think running back is going to be a priority for this Bears team, and that's fine, right? But, this running back room, I've said it before, is that if this running back room can be if they can be average with the weapons that we have in the pass game, the running back room, we can be an average overall running back room and production. That offers a lot of upside right there. If they can be above that, that's great, especially with the doubt that's around this running back room. So we shall see. And Kyle Monangai has a perfect opportunity, especially with Roschon already being out with injury yet again. Monangai has a great chance to step up, and we can see what he can bring here. But let me know what you guys think down below. Hearing Kyle Monangai's thoughts, hearing what he could bring here to the Chicago Bears team. How did the first game help you feel about Kyle Monangai? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. But one of the players that is always going to be talked about the most with the Chicago Bears is Caleb Williams. He faced a lot of scrutiny. Hearing yesterday's practice did not necessarily go the best for the Bears offense, and there were still some chemistry things. That's always going to be there. Him not playing in the first preseason game is going to be met with his own scrutiny as well. It's going to happen. There's nothing you can do to stop that for Caleb Williams. It's going to continue to happen. It's going to continue to be there because of the position he plays in the NFL. He's a starting quarterback in the NFL. That alone is going to bring it. When you look at, as well, drafted number 1 overall, Ben Johnson coming here now, it's going to be a lot of things. We've already seen the comments here. People like, well, if Caleb Williams fell, one thing we can't blame it on is the coach and Ben Johnson. And I understand them. I don't always agree with some of it, but I can understand where the mindset is coming from. Well, for what it's worth, Dan Orlovsky with ESPN, he ranked quarterbacks, right? He had top 10 lists based on excellence in 7 categories when it came down to it for quarterbacks. And so the categories were arm strength, ball placement, mechanics, decision-making with the football, pocket presence, rushing ability, second reaction ability, and then that was the candidates. I think I might have missed one there. And Caleb Williams actually ranked top 10 in a couple of areas when it came down to it. Caleb arm strength was ranked the 8th best in the NFL, above Jordan Love, above Jaden Daniels, above Jared Goff. That's what Dan ranked Caleb Williams' arm strength as, the 8th best in the NFL. That's a tall order there. Like, and one of the things that we talked about right here at Chicago Bears Central when the whole talk around Caleb Williams was there is that, Caleb Williams' arm strength was one of the best assets that he had. Josh Allen with the Bills, of course, ranked number 1, as well as Patrick Mahomes at number 2. Justin Herbert ranked at number 3, if you want to know the top quarterbacks there. Joe Burrow was 1 spot above Caleb Williams, and Michael Penix Jr. was 1 spot below Caleb Williams there at number 9. But Caleb Williams ranked number 8th in arm strength. Solid enough stat. I do think we all know that Caleb Williams has the arm. Accuracy has been more of a question than the arm strength there for him, and I think that's fair. Now, one of the places that Caleb Williams did not rank at all at is ball placement. He didn't rank in the top 10 at all in ball placement. Joe Burrow ranked number 1 there. Jaden Daniels was number 2 there for what it's worth. That is an area of growth that we need to see Caleb Williams grow in, is where he places the ball, and we need to see that consistently from him, especially under a Ben Johnson offense. And let's hope that we can start seeing that. Mechanics. He didn't rank anywhere in mechanics at all, either in the top 10 list. Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels were number 1 and number 2 there as well. As far as mechanics, no Caleb Williams in that list. Decision-making with the ball, not in the top 10 there. I think even the biggest Bears fan or stan will admit, as of right now, Caleb Williams can make better decisions with the ball. And that's part of what Ben Johnson is helping and wants to see from Caleb Williams as well. As it stands right now, Caleb Williams doesn't rank in the top 10 at that at all. Pocket presence, no Caleb Williams in that. And that's going to be, that's a thing. Now, hopefully that changes this year with the improved pocket that we are theoretically going to have with this Bears offensive line. And that's fine there. Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson were number 1 and 2 there, with Patrick Mahomes being there number 3. Rushing ability, Caleb Williams ranked number 10 there in rushing ability. That I think Caleb Williams shown last year that he's smart at making plays with his legs. There are times where he definitely holds onto the ball, waiting to make the play with his arm. When that doesn't happen, he makes pretty good decisions with his legs. He's not, Justin Fields, for what it's worth, ranked number 5 in that list. Lamar Jackson was number 1, with Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, number 2 and number 3, respectively. Jaden Daniels in Caleb Williams' class was ranked number 4 there. Again, solid ranking there. Brock Purdy being ranked above Caleb Williams at number 9, though. It's like, is Brock Purdy a better rushing ability than Caleb Williams, or does it just more sample size there? Question there. We'll see how that shakes out over the course of this season as well. And then second reaction ability. Caleb Williams ranked number 8 there, ranked above Drake May and Bo Nix, ranked 1 spot below Joe Burrow there. Of course, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen were number 1, 2, and 3 there. I think that's perfectly fine. I think the second reaction ability is a big thing, right? And that the way that that's described in that is the ball is snapped, everything breaks down, and the defense wins the play. What happens next? Can the quarterback still make something happen? That's the way that they describe that stat. And I do think Caleb Williams shown an ability in that. I would like to see it, of course, take another step this year. But I do think that that's a fair ranking for Caleb Williams. And that's where he ranked in those categories. Now, that's not going to stop. A random ESPN ranking poll isn't going to stop and should not stop the questions around Caleb Williams and how he can go. But this just goes to show, like, despite the things that Caleb Williams struggles at, he still has some pretty big strengths. Now, the question that's coming into this season is how, can he build off his strengths, and how many of the areas that are looked at as weaknesses in his game can he start turning into at least not weaknesses, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be strengths, but not as big of weaknesses. And that's going to be a big part for Caleb Williams. But we got to get that offense together. We got to get the pre-snap stuff together. We got to get the rhythm together. We got to get the execution stuff together. Now, the Bears have done a good job. They've increased the offensive line talent. They've increased the weapon talent in the wide receiver room, in the tight end room. And so Caleb is going to have a lot of tools at his disposal this year. The question is how much better does he use them? What's the step that he's made from year 1 to year 2? People didn't get a look at it in the first preseason game to go through with a fine tooth comb and to overanalyze. They didn't get that opportunity as it stands yet. But, hopefully that changes in the second preseason game, and we'll see what Caleb Williams and how he's developed from year 1 to year 2. A lot is riding on Caleb Williams. And Caleb understands, I think, the pressure that's there. I think he's dealt with the media pretty well. Hasn't been perfect, but I do think it's been pretty well. But all that is aside, if you go out on there and you go and perform, if you go and perform on the football field, it's going to quiet a lot of things. If you win while performing, it quiets even more, because Caleb Williams can perform pretty well as a quarterback, but the Bears could still lose games. If the Bears do find a way to start winning games, we can talk about putting the pressure on this team to become a winning team in this first year under Ben Johnson or not. But you just want to see a team that's increasing where they are, that's learning, that's developing. That's the things that you really want to see. And Caleb Williams is a huge part of that, and we'll see what he can bring. But Ben Johnson's also a big part of that too, right? And Declan Doyle, for what it's worth, he talked a little bit about, we talked about why the Bears were in practice yesterday after the game. And, Declan Doyle talked about that, and he made a big deal over it on, like, hey, these are things that Sean Payton, Bill Parcells, that they did, as far as you still go out and practice after a game. And I think that really speaks to, again, the culture that we're trying to change here with Chicago. Not necessarily saying that it's changed yet. I would love to be able to talk about this thing as something that's changed, but I told you, I'm no longer giving any aura points for the Chicago Bears, right? Like, you got to see it. And this is a big season for the Bears to go out and show and prove. you have to prove it on the football field. It's been way too many seasons as a Bears fan where the offseason feels great. And then once the regular season starts back, we're back struggling. All the questions pop back up. All the frustration pops back up. And it was just a month before that, we were feeling pretty good, right? So, what Ben Johnson and his coaching staff have done, as far as living up to the hype as much as possible in training camp. There's only so much that you can live up to in training camp. The standard is definitely different here in Chicago now. And you feel that by the way they talk about it, the way that they hold players accountable, the way that Ben Johnson is want this team to pay attention to the finer details of things. Those are things that really do change the standard of your team. How players live up to that standard is what creates culture. And so the Bears are trying to create that culture. And this is a team that's lacked it for so long. We're talking about generations of Bears fans have not seen a Bears team that truly has a culture. And that's the thing that I'm not saying that it all comes down to that. I think you build that organically over the place of where your team is, but the Bears need to be looking at that. They need to be trying to build that culture. They need to be trying to build that standard. And Ben Johnson, Declan Doyle, Dennis Allen has been a huge part of that for this defense. You can already see the havoc that Dennis Allen is planning on causing with his defense this season. And we just got to see that continue for this team. And a big part of that defensive aspect, hopefully, is going to be Jaquan Brisker. Now, there was a poll being done in which they talked about priorities for each team going into the into the offseason. This is from Bleacher Report, as far as where each team needs to prioritize their re-signing prior to the season. With Kyler Gordon already being re-signed well enough, that does put a lot of eyes on his draft mate in Jaquan Brisker. Them saying this, it's understandable that the Bears have taken a slow approach to giving Jaquan Brisker an early extension. He missed 12 games last season with a concussion and has had 3 over the last 3 seasons. However, any kind of return to what he's doing before the injury last season should see him return in Chicago. He's a physical enforcer in the back 7. He has the kind of play style Dennis Allen should love as the new defensive coordinator. Fellow safety Kevin Byard is also set to be a 2026 free agent, so the Bears would have to replace both starters if they don't bring at least one of them back. Brisker's age and production make him the better option. Now, I've talked about the Kevin Byard thing. I hope that Kevin Byard is back as well. I think that regardless, even if Kevin Byard transitions and ends up having to come off the bench for the Chicago Bears, I think that he's shown well enough in the scheme fit in those type of things. Well, the former scheme, so we got to see how it's going to work in this one, but I think it's there. But we can't overlook the fact that Trey Flowers is here, and Trey Flowers, is reportedly playing pretty good in the preseason so far. He had 4 solo tackles, 2 passes deflected as well out of being, and we'll see what happens there. He's 30 years old, but I do think that he has an aspect and a potential as well to step into one of those roles if the Chicago Bears need that done. Tasheem Johnson's another one that we haven't really gotten to see yet, but we know that Tasheem Johnson is another guy that really fits in the Chicago Bears scheme. And that's the thing to see. He had, 1 forced fumble and 2 solo tackles as well. He's 22 years old, but 5'10". But Jaquan Brisker is a player that, he were 2 seasons removed from him leading the Bears in sacks, or 3 seasons now removed from him leading the Bears in sacks. 6'1", 204 pounds. We already know what he can be, right? The biggest question with Jaquan Brisker is the injury things. He was on pace to have his 3rd straight year of over 100 tackles last year before he went down. Now the question is how much closer can he get to that, and how much do the Bears need to see before they feel comfortable re-signing Jaquan Brisker? Does it go into next offseason where they do have the ability to franchise tag him if they decide to do so? They could transition tag him as well. But for Jaquan, it's just about staying healthy. After playing 15 games each in his first 2 years, and then 5 games last season, there is a lot where Jaquan Brisker can grow at, right? But when you look at what he does bring physically, all those type of things, that is legitimate there. And I do think Dennis Allen's scheme can prioritize, can highlight the skill set of Jaquan Brisker. He just has to bring it and just has to show that he can stay injury-free. And I think that the Bears, knowing how Ryan Poles likes to take care of the guys that he's drafted, I have no doubt that Poles wants to extend Jaquan Brisker. I do think that there is some trepidation there because of the injury history, and that's understandable with Jaquan. But when Jaquan's on the football field, you've seen it. He is a playmaker for the Chicago Bears. He's a leader of that on that defensive side of the ball, and he's a guy that can do just about anything you need him to do, whether it's blitzing, whether it's being in the box, outside the box, whether it's being in coverage, those type of things. Jaquan Brisker has a little bit of all of that. The question now becomes of how much can he show it because he has to stay on the field. I do think Jaquan Brisker is going to get another deal here in Chicago. I think the level of health and how comfortable the Bears feel in that health is going to be indicated by not only the size, but the length of that contract as well for Jaquan Brisker. And this is a prove-it year in a way for Jaquan after how much time he missed last year. But I do think the Bears and him are going to get a deal done. Now, I don't think that that's going to be before the season starts. If it does happen, I think that, there's a chance of it happening next offseason, but we shall see. We don't know how they feel and the conversation internally with the Bears on Jaquan Brisker's health, because they see him every day in practice and they could have. I love hearing that Jaquan is not going to change his play style, that he's not going to be playing safe, because that is where you can get hurt sometimes. And we'll see what that brings for the Chicago Bears. But let me know what you guys think on that and Jaquan Brisker and his chances of staying here in Chicago. But that's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following us at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.